There we go.
Yes, we are live. Hello, hello. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back again at our sourcing webinars. And I'm super happy that Vanessa from South Africa is here with us today. My name is Adrian Kolf. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Matcher. Super happy to host you again and share some amazing content with some amazing speakers again today. Today it's Vanessa Raath. For the people who are not familiar with Vanessa, Vanessa is one of the most well-known sourcing trainers, sourcing specialists. She's super passionate about training recruiters, especially in terms of sourcing and all the different things that you can do in order to find and attract the right people. She gets headhunted constantly for companies to work with, but she's very picky, says, no. And my focus is on training and helping teams to get the better out of themselves. Based in South Africa, works across the globe. I've seen Vanessa, I think last year for the first time, speak at Sourcing Summit. Amazing presentation. But I think what Vanessa is especially known for is her extremely warm and open personality. Always smiling. You will introduce yourself in a little bit. And when I asked Vanessa a couple months ago, hey, would you be open to speak at our conference? Vanessa immediately said yes. And Vanessa, if I'm not mistaken, you've also helped us hire several sourcers in South Africa. So
I have, yeah.
And happy to have you here, Vanessa.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here. So thanks for having me. Listen, big shout out to all the Saffers on the chat. I mean, look at that. That's amazing. Yeah. I'm wondering whether I should be presenting this in Afrikaans or Zulu, or, most people will get it. Yeah. Nafar also from Israel. So first of all, just thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm a big fan of Matcher. And I know that you got a lot of South Africans working for you at the moment, and they seem happy. And that's awesome. I love your fully 100% remote work model, and I wish you guys every success. I really and truly do.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Really appreciate it.
Cool. So are we going to wait for more people to log on, or should we just kind of jump into it?
Let's go for it. We have a nice live crowd going.
Okay, perfect. Please just note I'm drinking water. It is 6:00 in the evening here in South Africa, so I normally am drinking wine, but I've pushed that back by an hour. So I hope everyone appreciates my efforts around that.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So let's go and share my presentation. So just let me know in the chat. Mashlapi is telling me I must present in Sesotho. So guys, let's keep this interactive. My training is really interactive. I like to keep everything that I do interactive. So ask questions, put them in the chat, all of those things. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate that. Now, those of you that are listening, can you see my presentation? Are we good to roll?
Perfect. So, we're good.
Great. Thank you. So what are we looking at today is we're looking at the importance and just how vital it is these days to harness the power of your online brand. It's such a powerful tool. And as I always say in my training is that we can choose to ignore it, but we would be silly to do that, to be honest. We actually should be using our online brands to our advantage. We really and truly should. Don't you guys just love this image? I actually found this yesterday when I was working on my presentation. I just think it's awesome. So first things first. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. So first of all, what you need to know about me is I'm a global talent sourcing trainer and sourcing specialist. I love what I do. I finished training an awesome group this morning, and I love empowering sourcers to do better. There's nothing worse for me than someone who puts someone in a role, says you're a sourcer, and then doesn't give them any training. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe that people still do that. The other thing, and why I'm presenting on this topic today, so when Adrian said to me, what do you want to present on? I know that there's loads of sources out there who've already presented, the Aarons of the world, the Badashes, the Shelleys, the Deemers. They are the technical experts. We need the technical experts, but it isn't something that I would like to present on. I'm going to present about branding, because for me, branding is the key that has managed to set me apart from other sources and for me to be successful in my role. Now, as we all know, it's 2021. If you don't have a side hustle yet, you are falling behind. So the side hustles I'm sharing with you, I do a lot of international keynote speaking. I'm hoping to get to the point where I can travel again to go and present at all of these conferences if our country can hurry up with the vaccine rollout. And also what I do is a budding wildlife photographer. These are some of my photos here. I enjoy spending time in the bush and taking photos. It brings up my creative side. So what I want to first of all start with is something I have discovered in all of the years that I've been working in recruitment and as a sourcer. People always say to me is, what makes a good sourcer? And for me, it's been something that I actually took quite a long time to define, and something to actually, really put into words, because there's a lot that being a great sourcer needs. I love this picture of Mickey Mouse as a sorcerer. This is what I think of when I think of a sourcer, because most people, when I tell them I'm a sourcer, think I'm a sorceress or something weird like that. But let's start with the first one, because this is what today's presentation is all about. The first thing that you need is a strong online brand. It makes sense because we don't know where we are going to be cross-referenced. So wherever we're reaching out to a candidate, wherever we are making contact, whether it be by an email, a message, an email, whatever it is, what you need to do is you need to be aware that you are going to be cross-referenced. So where are you going to be cross-referenced? And that's what we don't have control over. So let's have a look at this scenario. You send an email to a candidate, they check you out on LinkedIn, but they also look on Facebook because they want to see how many mutual connections they have. But on Facebook, your profile isn't up to date. It doesn't say you work at your new company. It doesn't say you work in recruitment. The candidate's not going to bother to tell you that they're not responding because you're not trustworthy or you're sending wrong messages. They're just not going to respond. And that's why the average response rate of candidate reach out to passive talent sits around the 25% mark, which isn't really good enough. If you had a better online brand, you'd be getting a better response. So more about this later, because that's what I'm talking about this evening. The second thing that a great sourcer needs to have is the ability to find talent that no one else can find. So please don't tell me that you're a sourcer if you're relying on job boards and only LinkedIn. For me, that's almost like shooting fish in a barrel, okay? What we need to do is we need to be able to spread our horizons, think out of the box, and be creative. Sources are people that know where to find specialists and where they hang out with their tribe. So you want to be finding people from maybe conference list attendees. You want to know the tech sites. Yesterday, I spent time training on 7 different tech sites, and people were amazed that they had exhausted LinkedIn. They couldn't find people anymore. So this is where the training aspect comes in. Sources need to be trained, because I believe that we cannot blame the individuals because the individuals don't know what they don't know, right? And finally, a good sourcer is someone who is a wordsmith who's persuasive enough to get passive talent on board. Let's face it, we're all headhunters these days, aren't we? There's no one really sitting on the market saying, hey, pick me, pick me. Every single team that I train globally, they could be sitting in Australia, they could be sitting in Europe, they could be in Africa, they could be in the US, tells me they're looking for Java developers. And this is something that is always going to be in demand. So we need to be persuasive in order to get those Java developers to change roles, to believe us when we say that this company is the best company to work for, etc., etc. And all of these things are interlinked. So for me, you need all 3 traits. And I do believe that there are a lot of people who are on this call who actually have all 3 traits. Sometimes the second one just needs to be refined and honed a bit through training. So let's talk about it. I want to talk about your personal brand, okay? So your personal brand also can be referred to as your online brand, your digital footprint, whatever you want to call it. But your personal brand is really important, because your personal brand is, at the end of the day, is going to give you that whole thought leadership status, that trusted advisor status, and it's something that you can influence, which is the beauty of it. It's not something that you can rely on other people for. This is something that you can start today to start working on and start improving on. So my favorite definition of what a personal brand is, and this guy pretty much knows what he's talking about. He's not like one of the richest men in the world for no reason, is that your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. So you need to think about things about, how do you want to be remembered? What are you putting out there from a brand perspective that you feel that people need to think of you by? So for me, it was actually quite interesting. I do this exercise in all of my training sessions. What comes out a lot is that, Vanessa, from your brand is, as Adrian mentioned, thankfully, very, very nicely at the beginning when he introed me, was warmth. And this is what I get coming a lot: warmth, helpfulness, authenticity, genuine. And these are things that you need to be aiming for with your online brand. We don't want to be the oversharer. We don't want to be the negative Nelly. We just want to be ourselves, and we just need to know when the right time to post is and when we are in the correct mind frame. Now, basically, as recruiters and sources, which I presume most of us that are listening in on this are, we are pretty much the best brand ambassadors and the unsung heroes of the marketing department, because we're the first people who deal with new people who are going to join the company. So we have those first interactions where we have the power to sell the organization to these candidates. And again, remember, it's passive talent. Sometimes we do get talent coming through via ad response, but it is becoming more and more difficult to do this these days. And that is why, let's be honest, mental health is becoming more of an issue because of COVID. We can't afford to have a bad day. We always need to be the person with the smile on our face, being happy, selling the company. You know, it doesn't matter if you've had an argument with your boss or you've just had a candidate take a counter offer. You have to put that smile on your face and meet with people and tell them what a great place it is to work at the company, which is difficult for a lot of people to do, I must admit. So what I encourage you to do is to go and Google yourself. You know, what do you find? You know, use your Boolean. We all should know about Boolean. Put your name into inverted commas, pop it into Google, and go and see what you can find. You know, go and have a look at the videos. Go and have a look at the photographs. Because this is a very important exercise. Because this is what your candidates and your clients are doing to you. Because this is how they would search. What are they finding? I had a guy who I was training this morning who did this exercise, and he was actually put down as an advert for hair loss. Shame, he was a bald gentleman. So it's quite interesting to see what you can find, okay? But what you need to be aware of is, are you going to let the internet determine your brand, or you are going to grab your brand by the horns, and are you going to live it and put out there what you want people to remember you by? And this is great because we have the power to do this. So some of you might be thinking like, yeah, exactly. Google yourself often. It will help you with your LinkedIn profile. A lot of people say, you know, why are you so passionate about personal branding? Well, first of all, I'm living proof of how successful one can be and how one can build a successful business through having a strong personal brand. I'm very proud to say that my business has now been open for 2.5 years. And what I want to say is that I haven't had to cold call for business, which is awesome because I hate cold calling. There's nothing worse than me picking up the phone to a stranger and saying, hi, do you want me to train your team? But by putting out a lot of content, by sharing a lot, by being authentic, by being warm, I get a lot of inbound requests of people who want to do my training, which is fantastic. I love it. I really and truly do. It keeps me busy. I was just saying to Adrian, I'm super busy at the moment. I'm now can only take bookings in September, and that's wonderful. So here I am sitting in the bottom of nowhere. I mean, look at where South Africa is in the map. We don't really feature on the whole sourcing stage. One of my biggest aims for starting my business was to actually to grow sourcing in this part of the world because it's never really been a thing before. And I've managed to do that, to be honest. So I'm very proud of what my business has achieved, and I put it all down to my personal brand and by being active on social platforms. So if I can do it, pretty much anyone can do it. So now that we've looked at the what is your personal brand? What are the messages that you want to be sending out there? What I want to look at the why and the how around your online branding and why this is becoming such an important aspect for us working as recruiters and sources. Guys, if you have got questions, you are more than welcome to pop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them as we go along. So first of all, let's look at 6 reasons why you need an outstanding brand these days as a talent or sourcing professional. Now, I've been in the industry for 15 years, which is pretty amazing considering I'm only 21. And when I first started in the recruitment industry, it was easy. It was like, here's your role description, go to a job board, find the candidates and match them. Okay. So that didn't really need me to have a great online brand or an online presence. Also, we don't have, thanks Fad Zero Star, you don't have the opportunities that we had 15 years ago. There are way more now in order to build an online brand. So we must embrace it because it certainly makes our lives a lot easier. So by having a good online brand, you're going to stand out as a thought leader in your chosen industry. And a lot of people don't think that as a sourcer or a recruiter, you can be viewed as a thought leader, but you really and truly can. You want to be standing out as someone who knows what they're talking about, someone who doesn't ghost candidates, who is approachable, who is helpful, will send someone in the right direction, even if they can't assist them themselves. And all of this, by being a good person online, is going to help you to stand out. You know that whole trusted advisor thing? It's true. Share enough, put enough content out there, and you are going to start standing out. Obviously, good SEO helps in the background and a good website. But remember, the more active you are on LinkedIn, the more you're going to stand out. And if you want to measure how you're standing out, just go and Google your SSI, your social selling index. Free tool from LinkedIn, gives you a rating out of 100, so pretty much a percentage of about whether you are standing out or not. It's important to do these things. Also, to remind ourselves that being top of mind for everyone means being tip of tongue. So you want to be contacted when candidates are putting themselves on the market, right? Or when clients are looking for someone to assist them with their recruitment. So I always say you want to be phone call number 2. So the first phone call when someone's had a really bad commute or their boss has crapped on them for no reason or someone stolen their coffee mug or something like that, first phone call is going to be to their partner saying, this is it, I'm done, I'm looking for a new job. Second phone call needs to be that recruiter who is standing out and being a thought leader in their industry. And just an aside, this is way easier to do if you are specializing in an industry niche, okay? Because it's difficult to be all things to all people. Also, when you have a strong online brand, you inspire trust in your audience. So when people trust you, they see that other people have maybe given you a couple of recommendations. I'm a big fan of recommendations on LinkedIn profiles. It's something that we can't influence. So when I see people with a lot of recommendations, I get really impressed. I then trust the person because there's a lot of people who have put their names on the line in order to be able to say to them, to say that this person's great. You know, I loved working with them. I'm sure that you will too. So these kind of things are really important. You know, if you reach out to a candidate, you've got 5 recommendations, someone else has 50, who do you think the candidate will respond to? And all of these small things about working your online brand, just paying it a little bit of attention really goes a long way. Okay. So your response rates is what it's all about. You want to shift it from that industry average of 25%. Also, don't you want to be more memorable than your competitors? So when someone puts themselves on the market, they can interview with 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 recruiters. But you want to be the recruiter that stays in touch with the candidate, who stands out, someone who's got an opinion, and posting this on social platforms is really going to be the person that I would like to deal with because they show that they are strong in their space. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a strong partner in order to partner and collaborate with. Also, if you have a great online brand, you'll find that it's a lot easier to sell yourself and any roles that you are working on. It comes back to that immediate trust, that immediate thought leadership, and basically you've already sold yourself before you start speaking with the person. A lot of the times what we need to do is we need to sell ourselves first, gain the candidate's trust, and then start selling the position. But if you've already gained the candidate's trust, and you do that by not being one of those recruiters who only connects with candidates when you have a role for them, but by building a network, building a talent community, building talent pipelines around you so that you know the people before the roles actually pop up. So I love this quote. Sell yourself first if you want to sell anything. And that's really, really important. And not sell yourself in a sleazy kind of way. Also, what's really important and becoming more and more obvious in this day and age, thanks to COVID, is that you can build relationships with people that you enjoy working with from anywhere. So one of your previous presenters on this webinar series, Balash, we actually have started a business together during COVID. So we do webinars around diversity sourcing. And what we do is we actually go and train companies and we train them how to find diverse candidates, because we were just having a conversation one day and we were just said, well, let's do something. Let's take it to market. And that's what you can do. If you have a strong online brand, you see someone in person, don't you feel like you know them? Don't you feel like they're almost like a household name? I mean, it was so funny. We were away last week and we were down by the coast, and one of my friends met my husband for the first time, and they said, oh, I don't know you, but I've seen you on Facebook so many times that I feel like I know you. And that's kind of like what you want to achieve. My husband was quite horrified because he's not into the whole social media online brand thing. He doesn't need to be as a professor, but it was really an interesting take about how you perceive someone by what I'm putting out about us on social media. Nafar, thank you very much. Balash and I, excellent together, like the old grumpy couple. Also, and this is our final one on this point, is that having a global audience is becoming increasingly important these days. And it's so true. I mean, at the moment, I'm recruiting for clients in Australia, in Ghana, in London, and in New York. And that's just the way that it's going. And they don't even want anyone to relocate. They want people to stay in their own countries. They want them to work 100% remotely. And basically, the only way you're going to grow an online brand is to fit into this whole global sourcing is by growing an online brand. And that's why as soon as COVID hit, I mean, when COVID hit last year, March, I had 3 international flights booked. I was off to Portugal, Estonia, and the UK to present at conferences. And I really was very nervous that my business, that was less than a year old at that point, was not going to make it through this pandemic. So what I did was I actually just upped my online branding a gear and just thought, I'm not going to put up with the fact that I'm not going to be at conferences meeting people. I'm just going to pump my online brand as much as possible. And it worked. I have never been busier in my life. This is definitely one of the silver linings of COVID for me. On a personal note, my personal why is why I feel that your personal brand is so much better. When you have a strong brand, you are more memorable, you are more trustworthy. But surely it's so much easier when talent comes knocking on your door as opposed to you always searching for talent. I mean, you want to reach that like pivotal point in your career where people are approaching you to say, I'm putting myself on the market. I only want to work with you. What have you got? What's available out there at the moment? And even if you cannot assist them, that's an opportunity for a split placement with somebody else. So for me, once you reach that point and your traffic is a lot more inbound, but of quality candidates, you know that your personal brand is working for you. And that for me is something that has made my life incredibly easier. It actually made it to the point that I left my previous role because I must admit I was a little bit bored because I had so much inbound personal traffic that I wasn't actually sourcing that much anymore. And I really missed the sourcing aspect of what I was doing. And anyone can do it. It's just about taking the time to build your online brand. So what I want to focus on now is we know why, we know the value of having a personal brand. I want to look at how. This is the most important part. So if you haven't paid attention up until now, put on your headphones and listen. Okay, we want to look at how to build a strong online brand. Before we move on, again, any questions, you're welcome to ask me in the chat. But this is the crux of my presentation. So first of all, what we need to remember is that the first step to crafting your personal brand is to lay a foundation that you can confidently and authentically build on. You cannot start embarking on building a personal brand being someone that you are not. Okay, Tizia, thanks for your comment. Because it's too difficult, to be honest with you. So I actually present at a lot of RT conferences. It was one of my strategies of when I was doing a lot of RT recruitment in South Africa, is that I'd approach the conference organizers and say, let me present at your conference. And what I want to present about is how to help your developers to interview better, how not to go to an interview in your pajamas, how maybe to wash your hair before the interview, and how to put a CV together. And, it kind of went down well. I presented at a lot of conferences. But a lot of people think that it's easy for me to have an online brand because I've got a big personality and I'm an extroverted individual. And to a large degree, yes, it might be easier. I've literally just taken my personality and I've put it online. But what is so interesting is now that I have presented at these conferences and I know these tech guys, a lot of them are the fellow guys that I present with, they actually say to me is that, Vanessa, we were petrified of you. Your personality is so big, so extrovert, so extreme, we didn't know how to approach you. Because you know what a developer is like. They're often very introverted. They don't really like dealing with people face to face. They'd rather be coding. So what I'm saying is, don't try and replicate anyone else's personality or what anyone else is like. Your personality and your brand is going to attract different people. Now, you're never going to appeal to everyone. You're never going to be everyone's best friend. Okay, something I've learned in my life. But if you can stay as honest and as genuine as you are to yourself and take that persona, take that personality and put it online, you're never going to go wrong. Because there's nothing worse than inconsistency when it comes to a personal brand. You don't want to be super positive and, hey, look at me and everything's going great. And then for 3 weeks you get, I'm so morbid, I'm so over this, I don't want to be here. You cannot be like that. Okay. We need consistency, whatever your consistency is. So my best advice when getting started with this is if you want to find that special thing that is you, no one else, you, and make your brand all about that. You actually can't make it up. It has to be real. Though it can be and probably should be a little bit exaggerated. And if you're having a problem with trying to figure out your brand, who you really are, listen, the most honest people in your life, chat to your family. They will tell you exactly who you are, exactly what you should be putting out there as a personal brand, all your positive points. Also, your close friends should do exactly the same thing. So what I try to achieve is I try and be really helpful. I try and help people that I don't even know. I be genuine and I share from the heart. Whether it was a good experience or a bad experience or something that just really touched me. So I think what you need to do is that, you've got to kind of consolidate it. It's not going to take you long. Okay, don't use this as an excuse. Don't tell me, Vanessa, I'm not getting started with my personal brand because I haven't defined it yet. You need a week to 10 days to do this, and then you can get started. And it will grow and it will evolve as you change, as the online platforms change, etc., etc. But it's just the actual getting started that is really the important thing here. Also, and I think this is the African in me coming out here, Africa is built on a rich history of colorful stories. I take great pride in being South African. I take great pride in the successful stories that come down, passed down from generations. I actually even use some of them in my training. And what I always say to people is share your stories, because your stories are unique to you. They're no one else's stories. And people love stories. Remember as a kid, like jump into bed, get a story read to you by a parent. I mean, I still read every night before I go to bed. I try and read for an hour. And no, it's not business books or sourcing or anything like that. It's story books because I love a good story. And most people do. And basically, stories help to create engagement and loyalty and connection. So when I'm doing my training and I tell them to get more active on LinkedIn, what I tell them to do is share your stories. Why are you sharing other people's articles? Cool, it's good to share those if you don't know what to post and you need to do a post. But share your stories, because you'd be surprised at how many people can learn from your stories. You just have to be bold enough and brave enough to actually share them. And it could have been a happy ending. It could have been a sad ending. It could have been an average ending. Whatever it is, there is someone out there that you are going to touch by sharing your story. Also, you need to build credibility by positioning yourself alongside others who stand out in the market. So those of you who have been loyal supporters of this Matcha webinar, have you gone and connected with every speaker? And if not, why not? They're not going to mind. Add a nice note saying, I watched your presentation through Matcha. I thought it was excellent. Please, can we connect to stay in touch? Because what are you doing? Is you raising your profile alongside other people who are seen to be the thought leaders already in their game. So on that note, if you're watching this live, if you are watching this in 3 or 4 or 5 weeks or months' time, connect with me on LinkedIn. I really and truly do not mind. I want to connect with people who are in a similar industry to myself. And that is how you need to position yourself. You know what the thing is, though? Is that a lot of people are nervous about, should I add these people on my network or not? Guys, you get 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. I've been pumping my LinkedIn for over 10 years now. I'm only sitting on 17,000. So guys, go out there. Just go and add people, grow your networks. And remember that the reward is when you're going to be posting, your posts are going to have a greater reach. Hey, Celeste, nice to see you, my other proudly South African friend. Another point is, I want you to find that place that you can show up regularly so your audience and community know where to find and engage with you. So when Adrian said to me, Vanessa, do you want to come and present for me? It's something that we run. It's a free event. We're not going to be able to pay you. I was straight away, yes. And why? Because I like to show up and present and share with other people, because that helps my business grow. And it's really important because I give a lot away for free, okay? It took me time to put this presentation together. I just heard the pizza be delivered at home, and I'm hoping the boys are going to leave me some pizza by the time I finish this presentation. And that's exactly the way that we should be leading our lives, is I work on a 5-to-1 ratio, is that you give 5 times, you give away 5 different points, 5 LinkedIn posts, you share, you give away, and then you ask. And that's your one. And I think that that's what we need to realize, is that, we actually, social media is about other people. It's about giving back. It's about them. It's about sharing. It's about collaborating. And sometimes, you don't want to be that recruiter who sits on LinkedIn and only posts job ads, because then you are adding absolutely zero value. You are a person with a personal LinkedIn profile. You should be sharing stories on there, not just job adverts. So if you choose LinkedIn to be where you show up, and I've chosen LinkedIn because, let's face it, every recruiter and their mother is on LinkedIn. Who is my target audience? It's recruiters, because I want to train recruiters and sources. I also run a very successful Facebook community called SourceCon South Africa, which is growing way more than just South Africans. So if you want to join us there, you're welcome to join us there too. And it's a sourcing community that I am growing. And people know that I'm going to be there all day, every day. I post every morning at 6 o'clock like clockwork. And that's something that I learned from Hung Lee and his recruiting brain food. People expect it. If they don't get that post at 6 o'clock, I often will get a WhatsApp from people saying, oh, you were right. I didn't see your post this morning. So it's about being consistent. It's about sharing with others. It's about collaborating and not being a one-hit wonder. Don't suddenly jump onto social platforms, be awesome for a month, and then no one knows where you go for 6 months. That's not good enough. So my goal, and this is actually the goal that I set myself at the beginning of COVID, the beginning of the lockdowns, was that I wanted to be posting 3 times a week. And again, my preferred platform is LinkedIn, because that's where my target audience is. If your target audience is techie people or developers, it might not be the best place for you to be posting, because as we know, those people are sitting on the GitHubs, the Stacks, the Devs, the Kaggles, all of those techie sites. Okay, so you've got to identify your audience, or the best advice that I would probably give is start your own talent community. So start a group on Facebook, on LinkedIn, depending on whoever it is, or whoever you're targeting, and turn up there regularly, post regularly, feed your audience. Okay. Right. So more points. I haven't finished yet, guys. I'm just getting on a roll here. Is choose that target audience. Not everyone is going to be your ideal client or candidate. So what happened was I spent 10 years building up this wonderful LinkedIn profile of tech resources in South Africa. I then decided to open up my own business. That's not my target audience anymore. So I had a bit of a problem. So I sit at the moment with a LinkedIn profile of a lot of people, a lot of South African technical people who've now immigrated. South Africans on the chat will feel my pain on this. I've now had to connect with all of those recruiters who tried to connect with me when I was sitting as a director of talent acquisition at an IT company. And I turned them all down because I knew that I wanted to do the recruiting myself. I didn't want to use their services. Calm as a bitch, right? So what I'm saying is find your target audience, but probably the best advice is don't try and start from scratch. Get going with a talent community and a pipeline as soon as possible. So if you were to start a group for, and as we were talking about earlier, Java developers in Africa, Ruby developers in UK, whatever it might be, React skills in North America, guys, just get out there and start it. Feed the audience, post every single day, answer questions, assist people, because then those people are going to be your talent pool when those roles come up. And that is why it's easier to niche. Because if you know you're going to be recruiting popular roles time and time again, you may as well build your community in that place. God, another thing that I must say, and this is something I personally did. So I started presenting at a lot of international conferences last year, thanks to COVID. And all of the conference organizers kept on saying to me, Vanessa, your profile photo is revolting. It's not enough pixels, etc., etc. Okay, maybe they weren't that rude, but they said, please go and get yourself some professional photographs and headshots done. And very reluctantly, because I like to be on the other side of the camera myself, I went and did it with a friend of mine who this is her speciality. Yeah, you also asked for a better photo. So basically, the power of having a better photograph on all of my social platforms when presenters or organizers of conferences put it up is unbelievable. Literally, the feedback was absolutely amazing. And I didn't try and be anything I wasn't, okay? I did brush my hair, which I like to do at least once a day, but I didn't go and, dress up really, really, really smart, because that's not me. You're always going to find me in jeans and trainers and probably a hoodie. Okay, that's just me. And I've just decided that I'm cool with that, and everyone else needs to be cool with that too. And also the power of a compelling bio. So what I encourage you to do is that if you're using the photograph that was a selfie from 10 kilograms, not 10 years ago, then what we need to do is we need to maybe think about how we are portraying ourselves. Because when you pop onto that Zoom call or that Teams call and you don't look anything like your profile photograph, we have a trust issue again. Okay, so spend some time on your bio. Your bio, you've got increased space now. They increased it last year on LinkedIn, where you can add in information, and just make sure that you are putting your best foot forward. It really is important. And I didn't realize it until I actually went and did it myself, to be honest. Also, you need to be that person that, as I say, actively listens and shares news in your industry. So it's not the first person who comes on board with like new scandal or something that puts someone else in a bad light or speaks badly about people or clients or anything like that. It's if something new happens. So be a distributor of good information. Again, no one likes a negative Nelly. No one likes someone who's always posting negative articles, things like that. But if there's something good that's happening in your industry, in your region, share it. Sharing is caring. We must listen to Barney on this one. It's really, really important. So if you're constantly sharing good advice, sharing good articles, sharing news, people are going to be more keen to follow you and connect with you because you're interesting. Trust me, there's a lot of recruiters who I've disconnected from because all they do is share job adverts. That doesn't add any value to my life on any platform. Okay. So rather be the person sharing stories or news that people can build on, grow on, learn from is a big one. Another thing which has always stood me in good stead is to join loads of groups and volunteer to help others. This is a big one. you're amazed at what you know as soon as you start talking about it. Like, I couldn't believe it that I left my job and I started with 2 full days of training all about sourcing. I couldn't believe that what I knew about sourcing could actually fill 2 days worth of training. And you will be surprised at how much you know and how much you can assist others. We just don't do it enough. Okay. We need to be more human. Hashtag be human. Okay. I love that one. So we need to be able to help others. And through helping others, we are going to, through karma, which I'm a big believer in, is that we are going to be better networked. You help someone with their CV, they needed a little bit of assistance with it. You don't know who their father is. Okay, they could be some big shot. You could be a mother who is incredibly high up in their position. So I've done it several times in a South African context. I love working with the grads. I often present to the grads. And next thing I get a CV of like a top developer. It's someone's dad or uncle who this boy has told them about it, the students, and suddenly they want to connect with me because the students has sung my praises. Guys, give back. Do what I'm doing now. I'm giving back to all of you. I love giving back to you. I'm hoping that my presentation is helping you. And also, coming to the end, I want you to find an expert or thought leader that you admire and follow in their footsteps. Not exactly, don't be a stalker, don't be a creep, but find someone that you really admire that you think, one day when I'm big, I want to be like them. 10 points to anyone who this person is, who I've put up, someone that I really admire in the sourcing space. Who knows who he is? Let's put it into the chat, see how we go. But on a serious note, well done. Adrian, if that's you, that doesn't count. This gentleman here is the father of the Boolean search. His name is George Boole. He was an Englishman. He was actually a cobbler's son, so he probably didn't have any shoes. So his dad made shoes. Well done, Marvin. Well done, you. And pretty much he is known as one of the fathers of mathematician, of being of mathematics, should I say. So fantastic guy. Apparently there is a grave you can visit in, I think it's an island, actually. So well done to those of you who got that. I'm very, very impressed. Okay, another thing. And finally, what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, are you using your personal brand to its full potential? And what I want to say here is that I would answer this with, I can always be doing better. And by that, I mean that your personal brand is a beast that you need to keep on feeding. So it's kind of like living with boys, to be honest. It's something that needs more work at the beginning when you're putting all of this in place and you're getting all of your platforms ready. And every now and again, you need to go back to it. But we can always be doing better. I know, for example, myself, I could be doing better. I've only managed to get 2 LinkedIn posts out this week. I've got tomorrow to get out my last post. So again, you can always be doing better. I think that we can be doing better in increments. And hopefully I've given you some good ideas in this presentation in order to be able to assist you to get better at the hows and the whys around your personal brand. But I want to leave you with a challenge because I believe that we never stop learning. One of my life philosophies is always be learning. I'm always reading something new about sourcing, recruitment, whatever it might be. So my challenge to you is, if you've enjoyed this presentation and you've decided that you're going to go work on your personal brand, it's going to become a very powerful weapon, and it's going to actually, in the long run, make your life easier. Go and have a look at something called growth hacking. There's even a Facebook group about it called Growth Hacking Recruiters. It's run by a guy called Tress Revel, very, very interesting and fun character. And if you have got your personal brand to where it is, go and look at how you can extend it even more via growth hacking. So that, in a nutshell, is it from me. I want to thank you very much for your time. I want to thank you for listening. Those are my contact details. Connect with me. I'm at Van_Raath at Instagram and Twitter. There's my LinkedIn. There's my email address. There's my website. Thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you. Thank you very much. Now I can go and drink wine.
Exactly. And eat pizza, Vanessa. Vanessa.
Yay!
Awesome presentation. Loved it. Loved it. So guys,
Thank you.
also to immediately give credits to Vanessa, is we've seen many presentations, but I dare to say that yours was definitely the smoothest in terms of layout,
Good.
in terms of story structure, in terms of how things are going, and talking about like a personal brand, right? You know that when you work with Vanessa, you're going to get high quality stuff, and you really know what you're talking about, because this was obviously, at least it appeared to me, not the first presentation that you did on this subject, because you can feel like how easy you talked. You talk from experience, you know. So yeah, like credits to you, Vanessa. Like I was taking notes, and really, yeah, amazing how you.
I think it's also easier, Adrian, to be honest, if it's you're passionate about it. You know, you're passionate about it. I mean, I know my personal story is that, seriously, I never dreamed 2.5 years ago that I would be working with the 75% global client base. It was a long-term plan. In 5 years, my business, I wanted to be global, those kind of things. And it was never something that was ever going to happen now. And I firmly believe that it has all been done by my online brand. And just another point, you said it ran very smoothly. You know what? There are certain perks to the fact that I actually studied teaching. So I'm a qualified teacher. It really, I get told a lot. It comes through in my training. It comes through in my presenting. I like to be super practical. And yeah, talk to people as though they're people. It's important.
Hey Vanessa, we had 3 questions in the chat that you kind of asked, but I still want to ask them to make sure that we completely answered. One of the questions asked by Dina and was voted up 2 times is: do you have any practical steps and tips to start your personal brand on a daily basis? I think you've kind of addressed it as well, but what do you see that works well for articles and posts and commenting? Do you have any specific examples maybe that you can share, how you started?
So for me, I think it was where I really had to kick it into high gear was, as I say, when the pandemic hit and I needed to be more seen, because I didn't want to, the fact that I wasn't going to keynotes at conferences internationally, I didn't want that to affect my reach of people. So for me, how did I get started was I shared a lot of articles to begin with, something that I found interesting. And I always said why I found it interesting. I find too many people share articles, but you don't curate them.
Yeah.
You don't ask a question. Social media is like a conversation. People cannot comment on a statement. Okay. People can comment on a question though, or they can respond to a question. So, it's important to start somewhere. And if you're battling to tell a story, start with posting articles, sharing events, sharing something new that you learned. If you learned something new from our presentation today, go and put it on LinkedIn tomorrow or today or whatever it is. I mean, you're going to help somebody else. You're giving back. And that's as simple as it is. I mean, even sitting in South Africa, I couldn't always get to these international conferences, but I would learn through people posting on Twitter. And I just think it's about kind of, a lot of people say, Van, like, where do you find the time? Like, you all over social media. The truth is, I never actually during my working hours, I never actually shut my Facebook, my Twitter, or my LinkedIn. I actually get more interactions, requests for work coming through those platforms. My email is actually quite quiet, which is awesome, because emails work, chatting on social media isn't work, right? So it makes your life a lot easier. So basically is that the more you interact, the more you're going to get responses. So comment on other people's posts, give them support, react, comment, share. It's all about them. It's not about you. And I think as soon as you realize that, you're going to realize how quickly you're going to grow your brand.
Yeah, clear. Question from Olga: what platforms do you recommend to use for personal branding? You know
what? I'm a big fan of the big 4. So I have strong presences and I work them a lot on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Yeah. Because out of all of those, I know that's where I'm going to be cross-referenced first. Okay. Yeah. Facebook is actually where I learn the most about sourcing, because I belong to so many sourcing groups that if anything breaks, anything changes in the background, that's where I'm going to find out about it first. I don't bother about having fancy profiles on GitHub and Stack, et cetera, because why? I shouldn't be there. I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder. I never reach out to people on those platforms. I'm there to find an email address. Yeah. So for me, it's about the big 4. Don't overload yourself. Don't try and be, massive on every single platform. You're going to actually just kill yourself with exhaustion.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Hey, and then one other question: how to check your personal brand score and steps for building? So social.
Oh, okay, cool.
Index, is that something to check?
Okay. Let me just give it to you now. LinkedIn.com. I think actually I'm going to quickly go and check that on my browser, because I was just there today showing somebody else.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to post the link for you. Okay, nice free tool for a change. From LinkedIn. Hold on. There we go. I'm putting it into the chat right away. So pretty much www.linkedin.com /sales/SSR. And basically, I check in there. Oh, look, I check in there quite a bit. I mean, I'm training every week, so I'm training on it every week. So, and it's interesting to see how your score fluctuates. So I encourage other people to literally go and do the same thing.
Cool. Great. Super useful.
Cool. Happy days.
Vanessa.
It also shows you where you rank in your network, where you rank in your industry. It's a good measure.
Yeah, super useful. Super useful. Thanks for sharing this, and we'll send the link as well with the recording in the email follow up of the presentation, so people have it in their inbox. Cool. Yeah, Vanessa, one story. Like last year, we were struggling during COVID as well because we lost a lot of business. And we also decided to double down more of Matcher. So that's when we started the sourcing webinars. And we got so many great responses in that sense, and people willing to contribute. And we were really able to build our company brand in that sense. Hence, this year we did it again. But all of a sudden, people know us. You know, it's amazing the power of online webinars and what you can achieve in a period of 12 months, because that's literally what it was.
Absolutely. And it's flipping amazing. I mean, even look at this, what are we on? Thursday. Look at all of the activity on social platforms, around this presentation today. It was awesome. I mean, I've had loads of people connecting with me all week because they're like, oh my gosh, we're going to be there. Let's connect. And I can't wait for your presentation. So it's amazing. So you've done a good job for all of this, the presenters and yourselves. So, it's a win-win.
Very humbled, very humbled. Hey, more questions are popping up, Vanessa. We're gonna. Sorry, the pizza's gonna get cold, Vanessa. And 2 more questions.
I have a microwave. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay, great. So Vanessa, do you ever feel like kind of like an imposter syndrome with personal branding, and how do you overcome that?
You know what? All the time. I literally have to pinch myself that here I am standing, presenting to people all over the world. Like it's hectic. It really is something. And I just think it's something that you need to get over. Like you just need to realize that, like I used to get super nervous before presentations. I'd literally stand here in South Africa and I'd be like shaking. Like I could feel my knees, like rubbing together or knocking together. You get better. The more you do it, the better that you get at it. But I think the biggest thing is just being honest and genuine. And, realizing when you've kind of, I did a post about 3 weeks ago saying, I think I'm hitting burnout here. This is my symptoms. This is how I'm feeling. Has anyone else had it? And that post in itself also just got massive response rates because I wasn't the only one. I had opened the door a bit to share with people. If I'm opening the door, other people are going to open the door. And I think it's just about, for too long, people on LinkedIn have just said, it's my professional network. I'm not going to be personal, whatever. But it's not. I think the more you are a human being on a platform like LinkedIn, the better the response you're going to get. So for me, imposter syndrome is a thing. I think everybody suffers from it to a certain degree, but it does get easier the more you do this kind of thing, like presenting and being on webinars. And, and the big thing is just get out there and challenge yourself to do it. I'm no different to anybody else who's listening to this presentation. I just decided that I was going to do it. And you know how often I said yes to presentations and then sat back and thought, what have you done? What have you actually done here?
Yeah.
And then you just do it and you realize, hey, I made it out the other side.
Yeah, cool. That's how you learn, right? That's how you learn.
Totally.
Hey, last question before we close off, Vanessa. What did you consider a good SSI rating?
So I know that your SSI needs to be, it's either above 50 or 60. So aim for 60 because we want to aim high. before LinkedIn actually starts helping you to boost your posts. So I read an article recently that if it's sitting anywhere, let's say below 60, you aren't getting much help from LinkedIn. You also aren't getting help from LinkedIn if your dashboards doesn't say all-star and it's still asking you questions and to fill in your LinkedIn profile. Then you're never going to have a good SSR score. That's also influenced by it. But for me, the higher my SSR score, the more traction I get on my posts. And it's definitely something that I can clock. I've got the data, I can measure it. So always be trying to get as high as possible.
Perfect. Vanessa,
cool.
Once again, thank you so much. Humbled to
thank
have
you.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
People that are watching or the recordings, we're going to send the recording and the follow-up via email. Next week, we have a different speaker than that we originally announced. It's going to be Alla Pavlova, who's going to share some very interesting content. Of course, Vanessa, you know her in that sense. We're very excited to have her and to have her as a guest speaker. If you consider to join a sourcing career or are you already experienced in sourcing, please reach out to Matcher. We are actively hiring and we would love to welcome you. If not, we hope to see you next week. And thank you so much for being with us. Bye, Vanessa.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Yes.